we're going to get into it from your perspectives. All right, so house rules stand. If it's a question, let's try to keep it as a question. If it's a comment, let's keep it brief so more people can enter the conversation. And I'll start to just get the creativity flowing. Sound good? Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Well-being, everyone. Demonstrated well-being. Mm-hmm. Okay, so my first question for both of you is about this concept of constraint to train. So the data sets we're using. And Michael, you mentioned we want to make sure we're keeping the data sets clean. So can we ever make sure the data is clean? Clean being a sort of normative judgment. Who decides if data is dirty? And what or who are we leaving out of the decisions about what's clean and dirty? You're welcome. Just starting easy. Gonna start easy.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good question. It goes back a little bit to the issue with this sort of...
Join me this way.
Oh, yeah. With the synthetic users and doing user research on using AI instead of real users, where the AI can never really represent all the different facets of different cultures, of different minorities. So I think the problem there is probably that as you have to take the context into account. So where will this live? Is it India? Is it South Africa? Is it wherever it is? And probably use sort of insights and knowledge from that market and that demographic to help sort of decide what is clean data, what is appropriate. But yeah, as we can never agree as a mankind on what is right and wrong, I think we'll always struggle with these kind of questions, and there's no clear sort of one way to fit everybody, which is probably why we see so much discourse, because there's a lot of people complaining that, you know, the answers that ChatGPT might not give, or might give is not right, and that's because it doesn't correlate with what I think is right. And so that's why you see so much upset. Like some people love it and others hate it. Right?
Yeah. Salla, do you have a thought?
Yeah, I think that basically comes to trade-offs, more or less, because it's often the case when you collect data, if you decide to collect sensitive data, for example, related to sexuality or gender or these kind of indicators that usually might lead to discrimination, then you're also enabled to, if you don't collect that kind of data, then you're enabled to mitigate those biases as well in a way. So you could kind of use this data to mitigate some of the biases and make sure that the model does not take into account these kind of factors. But on the other hand, is it good in the first place to collect such data? So these are really complex questions, and so. But luckily there are more and more tools as well, like technical tools to try to mitigate these kind of issues, and they are getting better and better. So I hope that at some point we have more abilities and answers to this question.
The AI joining us on our human journey.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to open up to you guys. Anybody have questions? 0 questions. Yes, up here in the front. Wait for a mic. We're coming to you live. He's got his running shoes on.
Hi, I'm doing from University of Leuven. I have a question for maybe both of you. What I hear from you is that AI will make us more segmented, and also I have a feeling that our cognition gap as human beings will grow even larger in a few years. How can AI make us being connected, like in a public space? And is there a possibility that we may understand each other better with some change of algorithm or with better ethics?
Do you want to start with this one?
Oh, ladies first.
Yeah, I think there are very good opportunities when it comes to AI and how it could help us connect with each other. There are, like, if you think about from the perspective of democracy, for example, we could collect ourselves to a platform. There are these platforms that enable people to share their opinions and their ideas in a way that are then used in a public policy, for example. And those are good examples. Of course, we are still quite like distanced from the others who are participating because they're still behind a screen in a way. But yeah, I think it can help us if it encourages us to do something else than just keep using the tool itself. So if we have like a tool that encourages, hey, we have this kind of, we know that your surroundings have this kind of people around, so there would be a lot of people who you share same kind of ideas with, for example, same kind of values with. Maybe you go and take a coffee. Then it would be a good thing. I think the problem is mostly that nowadays many of these technologies just encourage staying in the technology, in this use of this very specific product, and does not really want you to leave and to actually interact with people. So using the tool as a like positive nudge towards more interaction, that would be something that AI could help us with, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot goes back to what you talked about. So I guess it depends on who is creating this system and for what purpose. So Facebook or Meta is going to build the metaverse. They're going to put a lot of fake humans in that metaverse that you can then befriend, and they become your digital friend, and then suddenly they start pushing a product, and that's sort of product placement, but in a very sneaky way. And they do that to earn money. So that's really bad. But at the same time, maybe you could use AI to be my digital companion that sort of offers up and serves up other perspectives. So if we have a discussion and you have a certain point of view and I have a different point of view, maybe the AI can help us see other aspects of that and different. And maybe in a way the AI is more neutral, so I don't feel as attacked personally as if it's a person that is expressing this point of view. And so it helps me widen my thought. So that could be a way where AI could actually amplify and help us sort of find common ground or understand each other in a better way.
Follow up in the back.
Yes, hello, I'm on. Thank you very much for the presentation. I was thinking, from your ethical perspective, what is your take on the technology provided by AbleMind?
Ooh, going easy back there.
So you just discussed your technology earlier. Well, I don't know how it exactly works, how it's built, so it's really hard to say. Of course, that has like a lot of opportunity to give you insights on how you could improve your mental health and well-being. But there it becomes crucial, like you talked about, how this is a tool for people to have the information and decide what to do about it. So it's really important to still have the agency for the people to decide what to do with the data and help them, like guide them to use it in a way that is actually better for their mental health than the other way around. So to make sure that it's not the only thing that's kind of guiding you, and that it's made very clear that this is a tool for you and you have to make the decisions. This is just one perspective, and then you can kind of take the agency and decide what to do about these results. So as far as I've understood, the AbleMind's application does not like improve over time in a way. Like I think we discussed yesterday, that when it's launched, the model stays that way. So it's not keeping on learning from the data it collects from people who use it. So in that way, it's kind of, it mitigates a lot of these issues related to whether it's ethical to keep collecting the data in order to develop a commercial product. So I think that's a very good thing about it. Do you have
Of course you can.
Yeah.
Mike, to you.
Forgot about the mic. Yeah, and I also think it's very important that as a user, you know that who is going to see my data. Do I want anyone to see my data, and what data is then being shown, and like if it's anonymized and stuff like that. So as a user of a tool like AbleMind, it needs to be very clear, like, what am I showing and to whom? And I can agree, or I can choose not. I can opt in or I can opt out to that. I think that's super, super important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Michael, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I guess it depends, because you could take quite a few different sort of levels and viewpoints on that question. One thing is, of course, using explainable AI, which allows you to actually trace back, how did the AI come to this conclusion? so you can follow each step of how it arrived at whatever recommendation it gives. You can then present that transparently to the user, and the user could then say, well, actually, this is not right. And so you can make the model update itself and understand that it's doing the wrong kind of prediction. It gives me a lot of more trust in sort of what is presented. And it can even present sort of, out of all these parameters that it took into account, if this one thing changed, it would give a different result. So then I know that what is having an effect and what is not having an effect. Maybe I don't know about AbleMind, but in general. So that's one way of viewing it. I think if you take it to a higher level, is it right? Is it a good thing to have digital tools that help us with this, and how far can they go? They can maybe help me sort of start thinking about these issues. Can they actually take me all the way to feeling well and being healed, or and I think that differs quite a lot between different areas and segments, like, how far can these tools go? I don't think pure digital will ever replace like human interaction. So I think it's a complement, it's a tool. And in that way, I think it can work ethically. If we try to completely replace the human interaction, I think that would be a dangerous way to go.
Yeah, and of course, in the process of building the tool, it's really important to go through this ethical consideration of what kind of all the decisions that are made when developing the product, when developing like the algorithm that gives you the recommendation, what goes into it, and how can we make sure that the potential harms, if it gives a wrong diagnosis or assessment, whether that can lead to someone thinking, oh, I'm actually doing so bad, and kind of make people even more depressed, or the other way around. So it's really comes to, again, this balancing of the trade-offs. If it has how can we avoid as much as we can these kind of pitfalls, how to make sure that the accuracy is high enough in order for it to be of benefits, and whether the risks are actually so big that they overpower the potential benefits. So I bet you have been doing a lot of this kind of balancing and trying to find the best way to go. Yeah.
Other questions? How about right here, and then we'll come over here, and then we'll come over here. Okay.
Hi, thank you very much. I was thinking, for me, a very important aspect in the ethical area is kind of about the future as well. We discuss most of the time about now how we see things. How we use the data and how the data is being saved for the future. And kind of this backlog of how we used to think as humans about this specific product and data, and when we were using it for a specific point of view, but how do we save things for the future? I used to work as an archaeologist for many years, and for archaeologists, it's always important you touch 10% of that thing that you want to dig, because you want to save 90% for the future, because we know that it will be better technologies and better ways or different ways to think about what we are touching, picking, and moving and interpreting. So I was thinking a lot about, in these AI times and these loads of data, how we have a backlog and how we save things for the future, for better, bigger brains than ourselves. I don't know if you have any comments over that.
It's really interesting questions.
Yeah, it's an interesting aspect. I don't know if I've thought about it that much. A lot of the new system, the large-scale systems, like ChatGPT, has been trained on, I don't know how much of internet, but big amounts of it. So I guess internet in itself is sort of the data that is being stored, and you can sort of build a new model and train it on that. So the data aren't gone.
We should build more time capsules.
Yeah. But an interesting aspect is maybe what Katarina just touched on is in a federated system where I choose to opt in and say, okay, I personally choose to share my data for this purpose at this time, and I also want to be able to withdraw my consent. Now suddenly my data is not part of that model and that tool anymore. How do we then trace back if the data that affected the model is now not there anymore? Because that allows an actor with a different purpose to inject a lot of data that can skew the model, and then they remove it, and suddenly the model has been trained to do something that we didn't want it to do. So I think maybe it's more a problem of actually withdrawing data and then not knowing how it sort of affected the model.
Yeah, and maybe also try to, if you want to build this kind of time capsules for the future, try to think about the quality over quantity. I think for you, when you're doing archaeology, is when you find something valuable, you want to like touch only part of it so that you can analyze it later much better. But now we're just collecting everything. We're just getting a huge mass of data that is really, the quality is not great. We have a lot of crap. I mean, we don't want to be in the 10 years time looking at the time capsules like, whoa, we've saved these pieces of garbage, like huge cans of garbage everywhere. That's not what we want to say. We would really like to have well-curated data sets that can actually be valuable for people. And we don't know what's going to be valuable in 10 years, so we can just give our best guess on what would be the best thing to have for future generations, I guess. Yeah.
Very nice. Please.
Yes. My name is Karin Lilja, and I work at SweLife, the National Innovation Program for Life Science and Health. And we began 2 years ago talking to Martin and Media Evolution about gamification and health, because we wanted to expand our bubble of life science and professors and physicians and so on. And how can we change our bubble? Because we know that innovation happens when people meet and minds meet and things happens, like the water cooler theory and everything. So what I was thinking about here when I heard you talking was, how will AI affect innovation in society? Will it enhance it? Maybe yes. Or will it decrease it? And how will it? What do you think? How could we make this society more innovative, more mindful, and more healthy, and more get more ideas with AI to help us? Mm. Or is it doomed?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a tool, but it can lower the barrier for some things. So there's I think it's a Swedish company that is developing a model to help you develop your business ID. So you type in what you want to do, and then it creates a business model canvas for you. It suggests like monetization and channels and everything. So that's one way, for example, that how it could, if you have an idea, you use this tool and it just fast tracks that part for you. And when you then meet an investor or someone you wanted to discuss it with, you have at least thoughts on it and maybe a suggestion for how to start. So I think that's an example of how it can help with innovation. Creative thought in itself, I think, is still something we as a society probably need to train even more in schools, and entrepreneurship and somehow maybe it's more about the sort of places where we meet. How do we design our city to actually make sure that these people from different parts meet of the city meet?
Yeah, and I think there's like, wait, now I lost my thought. I completely lost my thought.
Should we ask the AI what you were thinking?
Yeah, I think we should go back and ask the AI to analyze our speeches and give a response to this.
Help us respond to the question.
Based on what I just said, what would be the best conclusion for this question? No, I think in context of innovation, it's just we have to be really careful in these individual situations when we make decisions about our technologies, because it might seem very harmless, like the consequences for one person when they use them one time, and then goes, well, it doesn't cause any harm, so it's great. But then think about if it's used by 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, multiplied by the global audience, and then using it for, say, 5 years, then the consequences might be entirely different. So we have to take a larger perspective than just the one use case, and actually be bold enough to think about the global impact and in long term, because that's going to be the real impact it has on people's lives. And since now, I think many technologies have had impacts that kind of reveal themselves only quite many years after they've been used. But for example, these generative AI tools are already showing huge societal implications after a few months of use. So I think it's getting shorter and shorter, the time period where the big impacts actually realize themselves. And that's why if we want to encourage innovation, we have to make sure that we're not like externalizing all our own mental capacity to AI, which kind of makes us enabled to innovate and to produce material to connect these dots and have something like super nice and creative. We don't want to end up in a situation where we are actually artificial intelligence becomes as intelligent as humans because humans kind of meet in the middle. So that's what we would preferably try to avoid. Yeah.
Okay, we have time for one more new voice. I see one here. Let's go right here. Yep, one more voice. Here we go.
Hello, thank you for. It's very early for me, and I have a lot of coffee in my system, and my brain's like. I am Anita. I am an architect, and I'm studying interaction design at Malmö University. So I had this thought when I was hearing your talks. So there is a huge paradox here. I've been thinking. AI is like the voices of many, many people, right? And we as humans, as human brains, firstly, we tend to humanify things. So even if it's a system, we say, oh, it's ChatGPT. It's like, I don't know, a person. One thing. And then another thing is like, as human beings, we usually tend to, we have this fear of exclusion, I would say, like back in the years that we were in a herd and we were afraid that if we're different, we might get left in the forest to eaten by a tiger or something. So AI, I lost my train of thought. So one thing is like we can use AI to help us or to facilitate something. And we don't want to lose our personal voice. We want people nowadays mostly to feel more unique. And we are unique, everyone is unique. But there is a paradox here. Like we use something that seems like a person and has a lot of voices that maybe might make us feel that we are not unique, but we want to feel unique. So question is, what can we do about it? How can we ensure that it makes us feel unique than everything that runs into our brains as instincts? That's the question. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's just important to remember that even though it might seem like AI has many voices or it includes many voices, it doesn't really. It's an algorithm still that's been trained with certain set of data. So kind of every time we make it look like human, even if we think that it's voices of different people, it's kind of not. It's still like a product of engineering, of creating that kind of tries to imitate as if it had a lot of voices, but it's still just like interpretation of a programmer or a group of programmers of how that might look like if it's turned into a technology and into a tool. So I think instead of thinking how AI could make us feel more individual, we might want to think how, in general, what would make us more individual? It might not be AI at all. So for those cases, we might want to use something completely else than AI and just like understand that it's not like I see a nail, I want to nail a nail with a hammer, but a hammer is not the tool for everything. I can't attach screws with hammer. I can't do many other things with a hammer. So it's not a tool that we should use just because we have it. Of course, it's great to experiment and innovate to see what it's capable of doing in controlled situations, preferably. But in a way, we have to go the goals first, what seems like for us as a valuable life, good life, and think what tools would be best for those things we want to achieve. I think that would be like a way to make sure that in the age of AI, we kind of feel still appreciated and connected as individuals. Even if there is like many things that are facilitated by AI, then that might not be the one thing that should be.
I'm not sure I really follow the train of thought, but I'm not sure I want to build a system that makes everyone feel so unique. I think we've lost something in society where we look at us as a society. Yeah. And we're so individualistic today with social media and everyone posting, and so I'm not sure I even want that. I think that the nature of human beings is we want to feel included, and we want to feel belonging. And maybe AI can help with that, just like internet has helped with a lot of subcultures finding other people like them. But I'd rather have AI making us think more about sort of us as a whole, and that I don't need to be so freaking unique. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to wrap up. That was a deep conversation. I would like to invite you guys to join me in giving our speakers a warm round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And thank you for spending your Friday morning with us. It's been a lot to handle. It's 2.5 hours of a lot of information. And I think what's been interesting is that we've touched on basically what it means to be a human in the world. One of the best definitions about well-being is human lives going well. So we're really talking about just creating healthy humans so that they can create healthy tools. When you guys were rubbing your eyes earlier and pushing on your eyeballs, there's this special color. The colors that you see have a special name. It's called Eigengrau. Eigengrau. And it's really that term simply means the shades of gray, that the unique shades of colors that we only see when our eyes are closed, and you're only going to see the color of your eyeballs. And really at the base, when we're talking about the futures of designing human behavior, we're talking about designing for these individual humans. So lastly, Eva brought it up. We've heard it several times. It's about the connections that we're making and how we do so through design, connections by design, and that the ones that get made and unmade are the most important. As you walk away, keep in your mind that this whole seminar is a product and an output of a process we call collaborative foresight. Right now, we've jumped into a new topic, which is the futures of wise cities. It's our take on thinking about what smart cities mean. We have a community critique on Tuesday. So if you want to get your crit hat on, you can join us in the morning at 9 o'clock on Tuesday to come take a look at what the core contributor group has put together as the future scenarios of wise cities. And then we have the seminar closing that cycle on June 9th. So mark your calendar. Right before midsummer, come talk about cities with us. We also have the conference coming up August 29th and 30th. It's our big jam. There's a lot of cool people going to be talking about human behavior. I warmly welcome you to buy your tickets, get a group together, come hang out with us. And here's our program for between now and then. We hope we'll see you back. And thank you very much.